Most people think aging arrives dramatically. I don't think it does. I think it arrives quietly, one small thing at a time. It's the stairs first. Not all of them, just the last few. The ones near the top where your knees make a sound you've never heard before and you think, what was that? And then you think nothing of it, because it's fine. You're fine. Everything is fine. Then it's the socks. Specifically putting them on, standing up, 1 foot raised, and for a split second you have to think about your balance. Genuinely think about it, like a task requiring concentration. Socks. You are 43 years old, and putting on socks has become a mild athletic event. Then it's carrying shopping bags from the car, both hands full, 3 trips to avoid admitting you've brought too much, and by the end of it you're standing in the kitchen, breathing slightly harder than the situation really warrants. And then getting up off the floor. Not from an injury, just from sitting on the floor with the kids, doing a puzzle, living your normal life. And when you stand up, you make a noise. Not on purpose, it just happens. A noise your body apparently decided was now necessary, and nobody consulted you on that decision whatsoever. None of this is dramatic. That's exactly the point. It doesn't arrive like a storm. It arrives like damp. Slowly, quietly, in all the small, ordinary moments you weren't paying attention to. I want to tell you about 2 men, both in their 40s, both perfectly ordinary, similar enough that the difference between them isn't dramatic from the outside. The first one, and I'm not pointing at anyone specifically, though I did own a very particular gym bag that lived in my car boot for 4 months still in its original packaging, silently judging me every time I opened the boot. The first man gradually, over years, gets a bit more comfortable. He earns more, so he drives more. He's busier, so he sits more. He's tired, so he moves less at weekends. None of these feel like choices. They feel like life. And they are life. That's the honest part. Nobody is out there dramatically deciding to stop moving. They're just doing the reasonable thing, repeatedly, for years. Choosing the lift, parking closer, getting the delivery instead of walking to the shop. Small mercies that quietly add up. 10 years later, this man finds that walking any real distance leaves him tired. His back aches if he stands too long. Getting off the sofa requires a small, private ceremony of repositioning and sighing. He's not ill. He's not ancient. He is simply what happens when a body is asked to do less and less for long enough. The second man doesn't do anything impressive. He's not at the gym at 5 in the morning. He's not on some program. He just never quite let himself stop moving. A walk most days, some stairs when he could, carries the bags, doesn't park at the door, nothing heroic, just the quiet maintenance of a life that requires his body to actually function. The gap between them isn't fitness, it's capability. And that is the part that I genuinely wish someone had sat me down and said out loud, because I wasted years thinking this was about appearance. About whether I had the kind of body that looks decent on a beach, which, frankly, is a conversation I stopped having with myself sometime around 2019, and I've been much happier since. This is not about that. This is about whether, at 60, you can still carry your own bags through an airport, whether you can get down on the floor with your grandchildren and get back up again without it becoming a whole thing, whether you can walk somewhere interesting without having to plan a rest, whether your life remains open, or whether it slowly, almost imperceptibly, starts to close. That's a word I keep coming back to. Open. A capable body keeps your life open. An inactive one starts shutting doors you don't even notice are closing until one day you're standing in front of one and realizing you can't go through it anymore. I think about my dad. I think about watching him find things hard that he'd done easily 10 years before. Watching him slow down. Not because anything specific happened, but because the body, if you don't keep asking things of it, quietly stops offering. And I remember thinking, at the time, that that was just what happened to people. Getting older, inevitable, what you do. I didn't realize yet that a large part of what I was watching wasn't aging. It was compounding inactivity, which, it turns out, are quite different things, and the difference matters enormously. Here's the thing about inactivity. It compounds. Which sounds like something from a finance presentation, but it's actually just biology behaving in a deeply inconvenient way. You move less, so your muscles get a bit weaker. Because they're weaker, certain things feel harder. Because they feel harder, you do them less. Because you do them less, your muscles weaken further. Because you're weaker, your joints have to work harder with less support. Things start to ache. Because they ache, you rest. Because you rest more, the whole cycle tightens another notch. And nobody rang a bell. Nobody announced that a loop had formed. It just quietly happened, across years of normal life, until one day you're standing at the top of some stairs on a family holiday, wondering why that's now a consideration. The gym bag in the boot. That's still making me laugh, by the way. I genuinely drove it around for 4 months. I had committed to the idea of going to the gym with such sincerity that I had purchased the equipment, placed it in the vehicle, and then proceeded to never follow through on a single occasion. But I felt better for having it there, like the intention was doing the work. It wasn't. I don't want to make this grim. That's not the point. The point is actually the hopeful part, which is this. The body responds. Later than you'd think, better than you'd expect. There is a version of this conversation that descends into either guilt or despair, and I'm genuinely not interested in either of those. What I am interested in is the fact that the research, and I'm not going to drown you in it, keeps pointing to the same slightly startling conclusion. People who start moving more later in life see genuine improvement, not just in how they look, in how they function, in how they feel, in what they can do. The body is not finished with you unless you've genuinely finished with it, and even then, it tends to be more forgiving than you've earned. Consistency matters more than intensity. That is the line I want you to hear. Not the hardest effort you can manage for 3 weeks in January, the modest, unremarkable, sustainable thing you do most of the time, for years. That is the thing that keeps the doors open. I'm not asking my boys to become athletes. I want to be very clear about that. I don't care if they ever set foot in a gym. I genuinely don't. What I care about is that they keep their bodies capable, that they understand, earlier than I did, that the body is not a thing you sort out later. Later has a habit of being further away than it looks when you're young, and suddenly very close when you're not. You don't get your 40s back. I want them to carry their own bags, walk somewhere without thinking about it, get up off the floor without an announcement, not because that's impressive, but because when you can't, life gets smaller, quietly, gradually, and then all at once. I got a bit better at this. Nothing dramatic. I walk more than I used to. I stopped treating movement like punishment and started treating it like maintenance, like putting petrol in the car or paying the mortgage. Not glamorous, just necessary. Just the thing you do to keep everything functioning. Most mornings I get up, drink a glass of water and do something. Anything really. Doesn't matter what. Just enough to tell my body I still need it. Because the alternative, I've seen the alternative. And the socks thing alone would finish me.